it looks like some of the key players on this Red Sox injured list are making big strides in returning to this Red Sox team. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and currently for the Red Sox, there are 11 players on the injured list, which is a pretty decent amount, especially if you consider the talent that is currently on that list. Now, some of these injuries range from 10 to 15-day quick pit stops in terms of an entire season, while others are more long-term and more intricate injuries that players are having to deal with and get back. But the good news is, so far this month, it feels as though a lot of the updates regarding injured players is going really well. Plus, every month I like to give you guys a quick update as to how the injured players on this team are doing. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down the current Red Sox injured list. We're going to talk about each individual guy, what their latest update is, and how close they are to returning and making an impact on this Red Sox team. But before we get into that, just a heads up, we are going to be live tomorrow night on this channel right around 7:10 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be checking out the Red Sox as they take on the Atlanta Braves to finish up their 2-game series. If you haven't been to a live stream yet, they are a ton of fun. We watch the games together, we talk Sox, and we talk about really whatever you guys want to talk about. So again, that is going to be tomorrow night around 7:10 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Anyways, thank you guys very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so I think the best way to fully break down this Red Sox injured list is to go from the guys who are closest to coming back all the way to the guys who are furthest from coming back, which means we are starting with none other than James Paxton. James Paxton has had a long road for recovery for this Red Sox team, but he is on the horizon. He is very, very close to coming back, like coming back next series close, right? He should be pitching in this St. Louis Cardinals series, which is coming up after the Atlanta Braves series. They're going to be playing at home, and James Paxton should be starting in that series. Yesterday, they technically brought him back from his rehab assignment, which really doesn't mean a whole lot. It just means that he hit his maximum in terms of days he's allowed to be on rehab assignment. And James Paxton has had a little bit of a rocky road trying to recover from his injury and get back to this Red Sox team. In his starts in AAA, he made 6 appearances, and in those 6 appearances, he has a 6.23 ERA with a 1.569 whip, a 10K per 9, which is good, but a terrible 6.6 walk rate. Honestly, I don't really know what to expect from James Paxton coming back, right? It'll be nice to have another arm in this rotation, and his velo did look good, but his location is kind of all over the place right now. In my opinion, and I think most people's opinions, it's probably going to look a little bit like Red Sxo when he first came back to this Red Sox team. A little bit here, a little bit there, and kind of hoping that you can sort of average the good and the bad out to become an average starter in Major League Baseball. He's trying to figure out how to pitch again, right? He's been throwing for a long time. Now he's got to figure out how to pitch again. So honestly, I don't really know what to expect with James Paxton coming back to this Red Sox team. After James Paxton, we got Garrett Whitlock, who should be back soon as well. His stint in terms of 15 days is technically up tomorrow on the 10th, but I'd be kind of surprised to see that happen. The last we heard from Whitlock was that he was cleared to throw again, and Cora told the media that there was no timetable or rush to get him back. But if there really are no complications with his injury, we could see him back as soon as tomorrow. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think the Red Sox are going to be pretty cautious with him coming back, especially with James Paxton coming back really soon, right? It's not like they have a hole in their rotation that they need to fill at the moment. So in my opinion, they're probably going to take some time with Garrett Whitlock. The latest update we got is that he did not travel with the team on this road trip. He stayed back and is doing a throwing program in Boston. Last we heard, he was throwing at 45 feet. So I would expect Garrett Whitlock to be back within the next week or so. It's probably not going to be a super long time for Whitlock on the IL, but I don't think he'll be back tomorrow on the 10th. After Garrett Whitlock, we've got Joely Rodriguez. Now, we do have positive updates with Joely. Joely has had a bit of a struggle coming back from his oblique strain, but he's officially making rehab appearances again. So far, he has 2 appearances with the Worcester Red Sox over 2 innings of work, yet to allow a run or a walk. He has faced 8 batters and so far struck out 2 of them. From what I've seen, it seems like the idea is Joely is going to make a couple more appearances for the Worcester Red Sox before rejoining this Red Sox team. In terms of a timetable and what that means for Joely, it probably means that he should be back within the next week or so, which is good for this Red Sox team, right? To get that sort of power throwing lefty out of the bullpen could be a really good addition to this Red Sox team. The issue right now with Joely is that his velo is way down. It's down about 2 or 3 miles an hour from what we've seen in the past. Hopefully that's just him ramping things up and trying to get his oblique back to what he normally throws at, and hopefully he gets his velo back before he rejoins this Red Sox team. But that's the big thing to look out for. Overall, he should be back within the next week. After Joely, Christian Arroyo seems like he'll be the next guy off the injured list. We talked about him in his own personal video, but he went on to the 10-day IL with a hamstring strain. It doesn't look like this is something that is going to keep him out for an extended period of time. He was playing through it for a while. Granted, we didn't know exactly to the extent as to how much pain Christian Arroyo was in. Rumor has it he was getting to the ballpark super early to get work done on his hamstring, and then after games he was staying pretty late to get work done on his hamstring after games. So he definitely was in a lot of pain, but from everything we have seen, it looks as though Christian Arroyo should be back after those 10 days are up, which would have Christian Arroyo returning the 17th of May. Cutter Crawford would be after Arroyo on this list. He seems to be in a very similar situation to Arroyo, just needed some time off his feet, and he or the Red Sox didn't really want to push him all that much, so they were precautionary with Cutter, but he will not be on the IL longer than his 15-day minimum, so expect Cutter Crawford back around the 18th of May. After Cutter Crawford, the next guy to come off this Red Sox injured list gets a little bit murky. There aren't a ton of really reliable timetables for the rest of these guys, especially the guys on the 60-day IL, but it looks like the next guy up would be Adalberto Mondesi, which is pretty insane to say. Adalberto Mondesi's 60-day IL stint is technically up at the beginning of June, but the last update we got from Adalberto Mondesi and his return and recovery to this Red Sox team was on May 3rd, when it was stated that Mondesi was headed to Boston to meet with doctors and figure out his next step. What that means, I have absolutely no clue, but he was working out in spring training and getting closer and closer in spring training, so I have to imagine he's fairly close to coming back. He's obviously going to need some rehab appearances to get himself back into baseball shape, so the beginning of June seems like a bit of a stretch in my opinion as to when he could possibly get back, so I would imagine it would be sometime in June, probably towards the later half, again, probably because he needs the rehab appearances. But again, these next couple of guys, their timeline is a little bit murky, so it could be anywhere from the middle of June to July for Adalberto Mondesi, but he looks like the next guy off this Red Sox injured list, at least the first guy off the injured list that was on the 60-day IL. After Adalberto Mondesi, it kind of looks like Adam Duvall could be the next guy up. Adam Duvall's latest update was that he is out of his cast. He does not have his cast anymore. He is wearing a brace. On top of that too, he's starting to do conditioning drills, starting to get himself back into baseball shape, and he's also been taking live BP. He hasn't been hitting yet, but he's been trying to get his timing down, kind of like we saw with Justin Turner after he got hit in the face with the baseball, right? We saw some videos of him taking BP, just not swinging. That's kind of what Adam Duvall is doing right now. Now, Adam Duvall was added to the 60-day IL, which means he can't come back until June 10th. I honestly would be pretty shocked if he was ready to go any sooner than that. My best guess is that Adam Duvall will be back at the end of June. He still has to obviously start baseball activities, which would be throwing, which would be hitting, and he has not done either of those. So we still have some time with Adam Duvall, but he is getting better, and he's getting x-rays every single week to see when he can start throwing and hitting, which again should be fairly soon. I would say within the next couple of weeks or so, we should get an update as to when Adam Duvall is going to start hitting and throwing. So again, expect Adam Duvall back towards the end of June, probably early July at the latest. Trevor Story is also making strides to come back to this Red Sox team. He's technically allowed to come back from the IL the same time Adalberto Mondesi is at the beginning of June, but that is obviously not going to happen, right? The good news is he is hitting again lightly, but hitting. He is throwing a bit, nothing crazy, but again, he is throwing, and he's supposed to be heading down to Fort Myers, Florida to start ramping up this week. Probably do a couple of weeks of drills down there, then head into some Florida Complex League games, then he'll begin his legitimate rehab assignment. So we've still got about 4 or 5 weeks until we see any legitimate, like, hey, Trevor's story is on the horizon type stories, but he is getting there. He was a little bit delayed in his recovery because he did have the birth of his son on May 1st, but either way, we are starting to see some real progress from Story soon, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him possibly returning in July, which is kind of crazy to say because at the beginning of the year, it was tossed around that Trevor Story may not be back at all this year, but he's making good progress and he's getting closer and closer to coming back to this Red Sox team. Expect some pretty big updates in terms of Trevor Story's rehab in the next couple of weeks as well. So Adam Duvall and Trevor Story are kind of on similar timelines right now. They're both getting closer to getting back to legitimate baseball activities, but both of them still have a little bit of a ways to go until they're back. I'm guessing both of them will probably rejoin this Red Sox team right around the All-Star break. After that, we've got guys who probably won't be back for a while. Zach Kelly had successful ulnar nerve transposition revision surgery. That's a lot of words, but it's basically correcting the nerve in his elbow. Not a ton of information on his timetable, but the Red Sox did possibly mention that there is a pretty decent possibility that Zach Kelly rejoins this team before the end of the year. The latest I heard was from Chris Cotillo, who said that they could possibly see Zach Kelly back in September. So a ways to go with Zach Kelly, but he did have successful surgery and he looks pretty upbeat in terms of spirits. Yu Chang had a successful hamate bone surgery. He mentioned that he thinks it'll be about 6 weeks until he's back. Although with multiple people coming back soon, I wouldn't be surprised if Yu Chang does end up on the 60-day IL just to make room for other people on this Red Sox roster. The earliest he could possibly return is June 25th. Again, that's probably a little bit optimistic. I would guess that Yu Chang isn't really ready to come back until mid-July as well. So those three guys, the big guys kind of on this Red Sox IL, Duvall, Story, and Mondesi, probably won't be back until June or July. Yu Chang isn't far behind him, but overall, I think these are some really positive updates for the Red Sox injured list. Let me know in the comment section down below, who are you most excited to see come back to this Red Sox team? Is it Story? Is it Duvall? Are you excited to see what Mondesi looks like? Yu Chang maybe? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Let me know who you are most excited about with these latest injury updates in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, we are going to be live tomorrow night, right around 7:10 p.m. to watch the Red Sox take on the Braves. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.